Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Daily Six. Today, we start a brand new chapter in our series, Knowing God. All this week, beginning the story of learning how God has placed us in His family. It's going to be powerful. Get Genesis chapter 12 open and come on with me. Let's talk. So this picture was taken on our wedding day, coming up 6 years ago here in about a week. And what a beautiful family. I just cherish these women in my life, Sherry and Rachel and Amanda. But it calls to mind that Pastor Randy Richardson, a part of our church, he has a saying that God didn't give us marriage and family for happiness. He gave family to us for holiness. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't trade the world to have, for these women in my life. They're such beautiful, there is, in fact, happiness that comes as a result of us being a part of a family. But the whole concept of being brought together, being put together and knit together, and all the beauty and wonder of creation that exists in our family members, there are going to be times when it calls out of us our best to serve the Lord with all of our heart in holiness as we relate to the people that matter most to us. God began to form a family in the people of Israel through a man named Abram and his wife Sarai. God created this family to model holiness for us. You got Genesis chapter 12 open? Let's sit down. Let's take a look at it. So Genesis 12:1 begins what I would say is one of the most central texts, if not the most central text or characters of the Old Testament. Let's look at it. Genesis 12:1. The Lord had said to Abram, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land that I will show you." Now notice it says the Lord had said to Abram. We don't know when and how far back this was, but if you go back into Genesis chapter 11, verse 31, you'll see that Abram's father and his family had already begun the journey of leaving their home, Ur of the Chaldeans, and making their way towards the land of Canaan. Do you see it there? Verse 31, that together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. So Abraham's family, his father, his brothers, and so forth, and all the other members of the family had begun this journey. The Lord had been speaking. Maybe it was Abram that God had spoken specifically to, and he said to Dad, "Hey, let's move on. Let's go to Canaan." And they did. But then they stopped partway. It was going to take an amazing amount of faith. Verse 2, God says, "I will make you, Abram, I will make you into a great nation. And I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you. Whoever curses you, I will curse. And all the peoples on the earth will be blessed through you." So eventually, verse 4, Abraham left. He went on from where his family had settled in Haran, as the Lord had told him. Lot, his nephew, went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all of the possessions they had accumulated, and the people, and they acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and then they arrived there. And so verse 6 and 7 describes him traveling, and God saying, the latter part of verse 7, "To your offspring I will give this land." And so there he built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved on towards the hill there east of Bethel, pitched his tent. Notice there, latter part of verse 8, that there he built an altar to the Lord, and he called on the name of the Lord. So God had promised this land, but not only had he promised a land, he promised a family. And if you flip over to chapter 15, you're going to see how this unfolds, because the problem being, at 75 years old, he had no children. So God had made a promise. He'd said, "I'm going to give you this land. I'm going to build this great nation. You are going to be the father of greatness that the Lord is going to do, this family for holiness, this family to reveal a relationship with God." But Abram needs to have kids for this to happen. So later on, chapter 15, verse 1, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. I am your very great reward." But Abram said, "O sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? In other words, God, how are you going to fulfill this? You see, Abram's whole life had been designed before the foundation of the world to be the seed, to be the starting point of the people of Israel, a nation God had created, a people, a family that God had created to model holiness, to model the relationship that we have with God. Friends, it was going to take an amazing amount of faith. And in chapter 15, verse 4 through 5, God takes Abram outside. So look up at the stars. This is how many your offspring will be. And I love verse 6, where it says that Abram believed the Lord, and God credited it to him. He believed God, and God credited this as righteousness. There was an amazing amount of faith necessary to leave his family, to walk away from everything he'd known, to pursue the Lord, pursue what God had given to him. Friends, I wonder, as you give God 6 more minutes, this video is going to wrap up here. We're going to start this whole week looking at Abram and his life and what happened. But could you pause here and ask God, what is it you need to believe for? What is the purpose God has for your life? And what is it you need to believe to set out in faith, maybe irrational levels of faith? God, what do you have for me? What do you need me to trust you in? Can you make that your prayer? And we're going to see how this all unfolds here tomorrow and the rest of this week here on the Daily 6. Give God 6 more minutes. Ask God, what do I need to believe? What do I need to have faith in? And then come on back tomorrow. Let's see what unfolds in the life of Abram right here on the Daily 6.